Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a minute. We're so pleased that you're here with us for our first webinar about how to understand your transfer credits. So as we let everyone get settled in, just give us another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are glad to have each and every one of you here present with us for our first webinar for understanding your transfer credits. My name is Amy Strite, and I'm the Associate Director in University Advising, and I'm so pleased to welcome each of you as an incoming new student or family member. I'm going to ask the rest of our panelists to introduce themselves to you, and then we're going to go ahead and get started and talk to you a little bit about how this content will work tonight.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Wisman, and I'm the Assistant Director in University Advising. Welcome.
Hey everyone, we're glad to have you here. I am Jolie Lewis, Associate Vice Provost for Academic Support.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Kate McDaniel, and I'm a Transfer Advising Coordinator.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andrea Ariano. I'm an assistant registrar specializing in transfer credit in the Office of the Registrar.
Hello, I'm Chris Campbell, Exploratory Advisor in University Advising.
Hello, I'm Jessica Lowell. I'm also an exploratory advisor in University Advising.
Right, and then we also have two members of our registrar's office that are here with us this evening to answer questions as we go through our content this evening. So we're very thankful to Michelle White and Derek this evening to help us. Just a little bit of agenda to get us started this evening. In terms of what we'll cover, we're going to go through some general reminders about our transfer credit and then how to submit any incoming transfer credit that each of our students has. We'll go through some resources for understanding your transfer credit and make sure that you all know what that looks like. And then when, where, how, and how to know what previous courses will count as. We'll have plenty of time after we're done with some Q&A and FAQ. We'll have plenty of time after we're done with our FAQs for you all to get to ask any questions that you have of us. So we've saved plenty of time for that, as I said. In terms of webinar FAQs, how to submit our questions, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A box. It has two little chat bubbles there. So you'll be able to submit questions. If you want to go ahead and submit questions as we go through the content, we'll get started answering those questions as we have time about 15 minutes into our session this evening. This will be posted this evening into the Prepare for Class Enrollment modules. So students, you will have access to that. It'll be an announcement and it will be on the homepage in those modules. And then it will also be posted on our social media accounts tomorrow afternoon as well. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with our general reminders. Jamie, would you like to get started?
Great, thank you. So a few general reminders. If you are taking classes at another college, make sure that you wait and send those transcripts after your final grades have posts. So we need those transcripts with those final grades. And also, if you are earning an associate's degree, a uniform certificate of general studies, that's also referred to as UCGS, or a passport from a Virginia community college, be sure to tell your advisor. So let your first year advisor know this, and also send another copy of your college transcript after your credential is conferred. And we do have instructions on how to send that and where to send it in a future slide tonight. And the last reminder here is don't take classes here that you have already taken.
All right, so I'm going to talk with you a little bit about some resources that are available to you as you start to wrap your head around understanding some of that transfer credit that you may be bringing with you to JMU. So we're going to talk more later in this webinar about some of the important tools that you will use to see your transfer credit, which is the transfer credit report that you can access in My Madison, and then also the academic requirements report you can also access in My Madison. Those are tools that you're going to be using very much over the next few years. But in the meantime, we want to make sure you also know about some of the other resources that are sort of in the constellation around the work you're going to be doing. The first is Transferology. That is a website that you can access that allows you to enter any of the courses that you've taken prior to coming at JMU to see how they will come in to JMU. There's also a tutorial that you can access, as you can see here, using this QR code. Next up, some of you may be bringing both dual enrollment credit, but also some test credit from AP, IB, or CIE. And so if you'd like to know how those test scores will earn credit at JMU, you can use this third QR code. It's important for me to note out loud right now that these test scores in some areas have changed for your incoming cohort. So they may be new now and different than what you might have looked at a month or two ago. So please check back with those again. And then finally, if you have, while you're in high school, or earned either a passport or a UCGS credential from a Virginia community college through dual enrollment in your high school, hopefully that's familiar and you know who you are. There will be some general education requirements waived at JMU. And if you use this fourth QR code, that will take you to the registrar's webpage that talks about those policies and which requirements will be waived for you.
Thank you. So we're going to move into some commonly asked questions, and I'm going to ask the advisors on our call to go through some of them, tell you what those questions are, and give you some answers to get us started. Kate, you've got the first one.
All right, so we get this question fairly often. Where do I send in my credit? Is there a difference to sending it by mail or through parchment? You send your transcripts to undergraduate admissions, and then from there, once it arrives in admissions, the registrar's office will grab it and start applying it to your JMU record. Basically, the difference between sending it by snail mail or parchment or another electronic processing company is speed. Parchment, it takes maybe 1 or 2 days, and you will get a notification, typically from Parchment, that JMU has received the transcript. Mail is going to take a little longer, but either is fine. We will accept them either way.
The next question is to me, will sending in my high school transcript be sufficient to receive credit? That is not sufficient. And this is one that students often get confused about. You know that we're receiving transcripts that show that you took dual enrollment classes. But in fact, in order to actually apply that credit to your transcript here at JMU, we need to see the transcript from the community college that partnered with your high school to provide those courses for you. And so make sure that in addition to sending a transcript from your high school, you're connecting with the community college that your high school partnered with and having another transcript sent into us here at JMU.
I have the next question. What happens if I'm anticipating credit from an AP exam, but will not be formally posted until July? We're getting this question a lot right now. And so what we like to ask is this a major specific class? If no, then just wait, and you can take another gen ed at this time for the fall, and then you wait until the spring and see, if you need to take it at a later time. But if it is yes, that's where we're going to encourage you to wait until you see your score in July, and then we can modify your schedule afterwards. We want to try to, limit how many schedule changes that, need to take place. So wait until you see your schedule, and then we can always adjust after the fact.
So the next question is, how do I tell if my credit has been processed by JMU? If you log into My Madison, go to your Student Center, you should see a small drop-down menu that says Other Academic. If you click on that, you'll have a number of different options, and one of the ones at the top of the list is your transfer credit report. Once you click on that, you'll receive, you'll be taken to a screen that has your transfer credit report, which will lay out all your different types of credit, your transfer credit, AP credit, and National Baccalaureate, depending on what you've sent to JMU. And in a chart, it will define the credit that's come into JMU. And as you come across from left to right reading the chart, you'll see the credit as it's converted to JMU classes and what it counts for here at JMU.
All right, so I've got the next one. Will my GPA for my transfer classes count here at JMU? No. So grades do not transfer, credits transfer. So your GPA is going to start at a 0.0, but you will still receive the credit for your classes.
Okay, next one. I requested a transcript from my high school or previous college already. How long will it take for credit to post? So you'll send that transcript to the Office of Admissions. Usually takes them a day or two to process it, and then they'll send it to us. Once we receive it in the registrar's office, it's usually between about 7 and 10 business days before you see that on your transcript. But if it gets too much further past 10 business days and you haven't seen anything populate on that transfer credit report, please reach out to us and we'll take a look at it.
How will I know what classes to take if I have an associate degree? I would say that as you're trying to figure out what your first schedule is going to look like, if you're coming with a full associate degree that you earned while you're in high school, congratulations on that. And the first thing you want to do is have a really important conversation with your advisor about what your goals are for your time at JMU. Some students may come with an associate degree and they want to take their time and maybe still spend 3 years here at JMU. In some cases, maybe even longer. So other students come in with this associate degree and they're absolutely committed to seeing if there's a pathway for them to graduate within 2 years at JMU. Whether or not any of those scenarios are possible is going to depend on the courses that you took before coming to JMU. And then so the really important thing is going to be have that conversation. What are your goals and how quickly you're trying to move through the curriculum? If you've taken an associate degree, that means all of your general education requirements at JMU are waived, unless you happen to need that exact class for your major and you haven't taken it yet. And so what you're going to want to do if you are waiting for that degree and it hasn't been conferred yet, we don't have it on your transcript yet here at JMU, you're mostly going to avoid taking general education requirements that you know are going to be satisfied through the waiver once you arrive here. But again, that means you'll be mostly focusing on classes for your major. You may want to talk to your advisor about whether or not you can add a minor. You may be looking for electives for your first semester at JMU. So just keep having those conversations. If they have questions, they can also consult with us and get our input as a transfer advising team.
Okay, I know this screenshot is very small. I apologize. I think this is being recorded and you'll have access to it at a later time in those modules. If you need to kind of zoom in and look at this a little closer. But this is what we've been talking about, the transfer credit report, and this is available to every student with prior credit we have evaluated in the Student Center of My Madison. So we've kind of detailed out some of the statuses you may see on this report. Kind of in that middle column of the report, you'll see posted, you'll see in progress, things like that. Posted is really, we looked at it, it's good coursework, we gave you credit for it. So you can see that it's been posted to your JMU record, the equivalent JMU course you received credit for, and that units column is going to show you the amount of credits that you received here at JMU. In progress is the big important one. It's why we bold it on the report here so you can kind of call attention to it. If you see a status of in progress on your transfer credit report, that means that when we received your transcript or we received your test report, anything like that, that there wasn't a final grade associated with it. So either your college sent that before your professor put in a final grade, or for whatever reason, when we received the transcript, we did not have full information. So if you see something in progress on your report, this is kind of your reminder that when you receive a final grade at the community college or the university, that you need to submit an official transcript with an updated term on there that shows the grades that you received. A status of no rule means that someone's still looking at it. So if you see something in there that says no rule and no equivalent course, I don't want you to say, oh no, that's been rejected, I didn't get credit. Give us a few days on that one. That no rule just means that we needed a little more information. We're still working with the department on whether it should or should not transfer. And so we're still reviewing it at this time. And then that final status of rejected for whatever reason, maybe your grade was too low, or we don't offer an equivalent course, you may see that credit is rejected. If you ever have questions, you see something on there and you're like, I'm not really sure why that was rejected, please, work with your advisor or reach out to the registrar's office. We can always kind of delve a little deeper into that decision. But for the most part, most things are rejected if you received a C minus or below at the previous school. So we accept anything that's a C or above. And we do have some frequently asked questions here about our transfer credit report. I'm going to throw this first one to Kate. Is elective credit good or bad?
So all the majors at JMU have some elective credit built in. You've got your general education requirements, your major requirements, your degree requirements. Majors can vary widely in how many credits are required, so that will depend on how many elective credits you have to take. And elective, any credit is good. I mean, you might see a 000 course, like an English 000 on your transfer credit report. That's an elective. It means we don't have an exact course that matches it, but we're still giving you credit towards graduation. So elective credit is good.
Kind of jumping off of that, we do have an appeal process. So if you see that 000 credit and you're like, I really do think that maybe it is equivalent to something at JMU, we ask that you have a conversation with your advisor first to see that if appealing that credit would really be beneficial for you. And if you come up with the answer that yes, an appeal might be a good thing, we have something in the registrar's office called a reevaluation request. So you can submit a request to us and attach a full syllabus from the course that you took to appeal that credit. But as part of that process, you'll attach your syllabus and ask for a specific JMU course. So that's why I want you to have a conversation with your advisor first to make sure that when you're appealing that credit, you're appealing it for something at JMU that will actually help you towards your degree. But you can find that on our website just by searching in that top right-hand search bar for registrar forms, and it's the reevaluation request. But you can appeal either things that are 000 elective credit or things that are rejected. And we'll look through that a little more.
If I haven't received credit for my spring or summer classes yet, how do I know what to take? That's a great question. One of the things we recommend you doing is checking our first semester worksheets. Your advisor should have emailed them to you at the first point of contact on June 10th. So if you could look back in that email, and you should be able to click and find your major that you're pursuing, and it'll have a list of first semester classes that you should enroll in. Another option would be looking at the Gen Ed planner and seeing what areas you haven't covered yet. And then you could always check out your major in the catalog and see different semesters, courses that you would need in the future if you've already got some anticipated credit coming in.
We did kind of discuss a little bit about if you see a status up in progress, that may mean that the first transcript you sent us did not have your final grades on it. So in your one book, in your new student checklist, we do have a step in here that shows a due date of June 30th for those final transcripts. So again, this is just a little nudge in your new student checklist to make sure that you're remembering to send a final updated transcript. If you send a transcript after this date, we'll still accept it. I don't want you to think that this is a hard cutoff. If we don't get it by June 30th, we're never going to take it. We just like to try to get them in by this point because it really helps with these things that we've listed out on the slide here. It allows us to post your credit much earlier, which in turn allows your advisor to be able to see it much earlier so that they can accurately help you enroll in things that you will need moving forward. But that's going to include any kind of final grades, whether it's a score report from College Board for AP or your final high school transcript or something from a college or university.
All right. So many of you have already found the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and that's where we're going to take questions. So if you've got your hand raised, or if you haven't used that Q&A button yet and you've got questions, we'd invite you to make sure you get those questions submitted. I'm going to go ahead and begin asking some of these questions, and we'll rotate between the team of individuals that are here to answer these questions. So Andrea, I'm going to come to you first. How will we know if JMU has received that final transcript? Do students get an email? Will it be in My Madison? Can you tell us a little bit about where those will be located?
Sure. Anything that we receive and has been evaluated is going to show on that transfer credit report in My Madison. You can also view it in My Madison by looking at your unofficial JMU transcript. So you can see it there as well. But if you don't see anything listed there and you're pretty sure that you submitted your final transcript, you can always reach out to us or to someone advising to see if we have that on file. But if we have it and we've processed it, you'll be able to view that in the Student Center.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got some questions about AP exams and what credit or what scores are needed for each of those. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that that link that we had shared earlier be put into the chat so that everybody has access to be able to see that. So, and that we can refer to it with some of our later questions. Students, it's also in your Prepare for Class Enrollment modules. As Jolie mentioned, it has been updated for the 2026 to 2027 class year, and it has some additions and some updates in terms of the scores that JMU is accepting. So we'd really encourage you to pay attention to those updates. Chris, I'm going to come to you for this next question, which does incorporate some of the AP component. If a student earns AP pre-calculus credit, which would be about 3 credits, but that doesn't meet a gen ed requirement, what exactly does that mean? Do those 3 credits count for anything?
So AP Pre-Calc is one of our new additions to the AP chart. If you earn a 3 or above on the AP Pre-Calc, you'll receive Math 155 credit, which is college algebra. It's not a gen ed course, so it will not help you with your 41 gen ed credits, but it will count towards your degree as an elective or a Bachelor of Science requirement. So if any of you are taking a degree or finishing a major that is a Bachelor of Science, you'll need at least 2 math courses. So if you have Math 155, that will already be one of your 2 math courses.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. All right. So, Kate, I'm going to come to you for this next one, okay? It looks like my DE class grade shows as an in progress in My Madison. Does the college transcript not have the grade, or does that come in my high school transcript? Can you tell us a little bit more about what in progress means in My Madison and what a student would need to do next? Oh, yeah, there you go.
Sorry. In progress just means that when the transcript was received, the grade wasn't there. But you still should be able to see what it will come in as long as you earn a C or better on your transcript request. And there is a lag time or a weird timing thing with dual enrollment credit and the community college system. So sometimes it takes longer for those dual enrollment grades to be posted because the high school and the community colleges are on different schedules. So just make sure that you have sent or are sending the final transcript when the grades are on there. It just may take a little extra time. You might have to monitor it over the summer. I actually had a neighbor who got her associate degree from a community college, and it didn't finally post until August. So that could be something. And you could always ask your high school guidance office too about timing of those grades.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kate. All right, Chris, I'm coming to you for this question. And it is, if I have a placement in an ALEX that is lower than incoming credit, do I have to retake the ALEX to meet that incoming credit score in order to take that class, or am I okay with my placement?
Okay, so basically, you're saying that you place lower than the AP credit or dual enrollment credit that you have. So at JMU, we'll take the incoming credit over top of the ALEX placement. So for example, if your ALEX placement score was on the lower side and maybe you placed in the Math 155, but you have AP credit for Math 205 or 235, then you don't have to take 155 because you already have credit for those classes, and you can continue on with the next sequence in math, or just know that your AP math will satisfy the math requirement that you may have for your major.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. Jolie, I've got a question for you. If a student has a UCGS certificate, how will that change what classes they'll take?
The UCGS is one of the Virginia Community College credentials that can earn you a partial waiver of general education at JMU. So what you'll want to do is go to the website that we shared a QR code for earlier. I will pull that link and drop it in the chat, or Amy may even beat me to it. But you can go there and look at which requirements in general education at JMU will be waived by the credential that you're earning.
Thank you so much, Jolie. Andrea, this one's for you. Will you only accept college class credits from high school AP classes if they have taken the AP exam and thus have earned the particular score?
This is a really good question. So there are situations where you may take an AP course in high school, but at the end you do not take the AP exam. We do not grant credit for AP courses. So you would have had to take the exam at the end and earn the minimum required grade on that exam in order to receive credit. But those exams, the tests, are what are actually generating that college level credit.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Kate, this one is for you. If I took the language placement exam and scored higher than the first level, would I get those credits or do I have to take a challenge exam and then pay for them?
So the foreign language placement exam is a placement tool. So it is telling you where you start in that language. It is not a credit by exam. You will not get credits for testing into, say, Spanish 300. You won't get all the credits that come before Spanish 300. It just means that you tested into that level. And if you need to take a foreign language, that's where you begin.
Thank you, Kate. Appreciate that. Jamie, this one's for you. Why does very few of my dual enrollment classes that I took for my senior year say in progress, even though I already completed them? I also talked to the community college that I took the classes from, and they said that the credit grades aren't posted yet last month when I sent in my first transfer credit. So I sent both of the transcripts again, but last week the community college told me that the credits report of my dual enrollment credits are fully posted. So I think that this is basically asking about timing of dual enrollment classes and in progress versus grades posted.
Yes, thank you, Amy. So that's a great question. So if it's still saying in progress, then what was already mentioned previously was that we didn't receive the final grades with the transcript with the final grades. So you would just want to make sure that that transcript was sent with the final grades. Otherwise, it would still be showing that in progress.
Thank you so much. Jamie, while you're talking, I'm going to ask you to answer a follow-up question about advisor one-on-one appointments versus group appointments.
Yes. So right now, all first year advisors are super busy having their virtual group advising sessions with all of their advisees. So first, that is a requirement that you attend one of those. If you do wish to have a follow-up after that with a one-on-one type meeting with your advisor, you could always email them and see if they have that capacity, and they may. So just reach out to them. You all should have your advisor's contact information and email to follow up and ask if that's a possibility.
Thank you so much. All right. So our next question is a great one, Chris, I think for you to answer. Will our advisor send us an email of what classes to take? How will students know what classes to take, Chris?
As you go through the modules in Canvas, you should come to the prepare for class enrollment step, which will show you how to enroll in classes and lay out your first semester enrollment in the first semester enrollment worksheet. So the worksheet will break down what you're required to take, some additional suggestions, and then other gen ed options for you to enroll in for your first semester at JMU.
Perfect. That prepare for class enrollment modules have a lot of really helpful information in there. Andrea, I'm coming to you for this one. AP English Literature and Composition is listed as a JMU equivalent to Gen Ed 1, 2, 3 brackets 4. Can you tell us what that means?
Yes. So those GMED course codes are essentially courses that will meet a specific gen ed requirement, even though they don't have an equivalent course at JMU. So that is kind of a placeholder course for our general education program to say, yes, we will accept this and it will meet that specific gen ed requirement, but it won't transfer as Bio 103 or Writing 103. So that GNED is just an identifier to tell you that that exam is going to meet a gen ed requirement.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Andrew, while you're talking, could you explain a little bit more about the courses required for equivalency section on the transfer credit report? It looks like people are
Yes.
having some problem with that one.
Yeah, very good question. On the transfer credit report, the very last column is going to say courses required for equivalency. Most of the time, that column will be blank, and that's perfectly fine. If you see courses in there, it means that in order to receive credit at JMU, you have to take more than one course at the other school. So a good example, our US history course at JMU, we offer one course, History 225. It's a 4 credit course that covers all US history. Most other colleges or universities split that into 2 courses. You'll take US History Part 1 that goes through the Civil War for 3 credits, and you'll take US History Part 2 that's Civil War II Modern for another 3 credits. So that's a situation where you might see both Part 1 and Part 2 listed in that last column, courses required for equivalency, because you have to take both before we'll give you credit for our full 4 credit course. So very good question.
Thanks so much for explaining that. Okay. So, Kate, I'm going to come to you for this one, if that's okay. I have earned 62 total credits, but it is saying that I still need 4 for my general education. Could you help the student understand why that might be and maybe kind of expand a little bit on the different nuances of why a student might encounter this situation?
Sure. So if you're coming from if your dual enrollment credit was from a Virginia community college, it is about 60 credits to earn an associate degree. But you have to be placed in a program in order for that to happen from the community college. You also need to apply for graduation. Um, and you also need to send us that transcript with the degree on it so that the registrar's office can apply that gen ed waiver. So that happens a lot of times with our transfer students is they will send us a transcript before the degree has been conferred. And we need a record of that in addition to the final grade. So that would be something to check with your high school or the community college to see where you are in that degree progress, and make sure if you did complete all of the requirements for a degree that you get that degree conferred and have it sent to us.
Thank you so much, Kate. There's a couple questions about how to tell if a student's high school transcript has been received. So that's not something that we as an advising team can see, but that is something that our admissions colleagues can see. So students, if you are concerned about your high school transcript, we would really encourage you to contact the Office of Admissions, and they can assist you further with that. And then additionally, there are questions about how to send in AP credit. Students, you'll send those directly through College Board. If you have credits from future years that you haven't yet sent to JMU, you certainly can send those, or you can wait until any of your exam scores post in early July and then send them all at once. Jolie, there's a question here for you. Is there a difference between uploading the credits to Transferology and Parchment, or is that something separate? Can you tell the student the difference?
Yes, they are in fact 2 separate platforms, and Transferology is a platform that you can use just for your own information. When you're using Transferology, you're not communicating with us. You're looking up in this database what previous coursework you have taken and what the transfer equivalents here at JMU are, and what you can expect to receive credit for as you transfer those courses. When you're going into Parchment, what you're doing is you're asking Parchment to connect with your previous institution to send transcripts to us. So in that case, information is coming to us about your previous coursework so that we're able to evaluate it and actually apply credit based on the previous courses that you've taken.
Perfect. Well, and Julie, as you're talking, can you answer the student's question if you have an advisor appointment tomorrow and haven't sent your transcripts? Do you have a suggestion?
Yes, I would say it is okay. You do not necessarily have to have sent your transcripts and have them received by JMU before you talk to your advisor. We do encourage you to get that done as quickly as possible, so that the official information will be in your record and will apply toward the requirements for your major. However, in the meantime, you still do want to be thinking of what classes you want to take in the fall. So if possible, please go ahead and pull an unofficial transcript that you can share with your advisor at the same time that you're going through the process to send the official one to admissions so that we can process it.
Thanks so much. Jamie, I've got one for you. I see on my transfer credit report that two of the classes I've taken equal Writing 103 and English 221. Do I still need to take those, or does that free up space for me to take other classes?
Great question. So no, you do not need to take those again at JMU, and it does free up spaces for you to add other classes. So maybe you could even consider a minor and start working on that later down the road when you have those free spaces in your schedule.
Perfect. Um, Kate, can you help a student understand what it means if their classes that they've taken are not in transferology? Oh, you're muted, Kate, if you don't mind.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted.
Okay.
If the courses are showing as maybe or there's no equivalent class in transferology, that just means we haven't seen them before. And so this is a living database that is consistently being updated. And so basically what happens is when credits come in that are not in the database, the registrar's office will send those courses out for review to the academic departments, and then it will be updated when that information comes back from the department. So even if you have, and it'll show up on your transfer credit report as no rule or no equivalent course, but as Andrea said, the registrar's office is working on that. So just give it a little bit more time.
Thank you so much. Julia, I've got a question for you. If we're someone with an associate's degree and many of our courses for our majors are locked by prerequisites, what would be the best thing to do to get to 15 credit hours? Taking classes for a minor, prerequisites, what would this look like?
Yes, taking classes for a minor can be one excellent option. Or if there are any classes that you can use as electives that are just content that you're excited to explore because that's part of what college is all about, then that can be a great option. Um, because right now, incoming first year students cannot declare a minor except in a few special cases, which are based on discipline. So if you are pre-professional health, you may be able to. If you are an education student, you may be able to. But by and large, we don't have incoming new students declare minors. That may mean that your advisor will have to advocate on your behalf for to see if classes in a minor that you're interested in could be a possibility in the fall. They may connect with us and we may be able to reach out to the department to see what your options may look like. So I would really encourage you to have that conversation with your advisor about what some other courses are that you might be able to take if you will be receiving the gen ed waiver for having a VCCS associate degree.
Thank you. So there's a question that I would like to have one of our advisors answer, and maybe Jamie, this could be a great question for you, if that's okay. If I place on the lower side of the ALEX math exam and were to enroll in a math class at a college this summer, would this transfer over to replace the lower level math class and get me on track for my major?
So let me make sure I'm following that correctly. So basically, if you score on the ALEX particular score, but you take a class this summer, and then that would basically take place of your ALEX score. So what that would mean is if that was a class that you needed to take to be able to take a higher level class in the fall, then that would work. So you would be able to then take that next class in the sequence.
Thank you. We're getting a bunch of questions about specific scores that are needed for particular classes. So just for the purposes of making sure that we can cover all of the wonderful questions that everyone is answering, we're not going to go into particular scores that are needed for each exam. But I just want to highlight that we did put in the chat that particular document that has those updated scores for each of them that are available. I would encourage you to get that pulled up into a different browser on your phone or if you're on your laptop so you can go through and look at that. And certainly we will put our email address if you have any questions about how any of those credit comes in. Please don't hesitate to let us know as well, okay? I'm also putting into the chat the My Madison tutorial about how to view your test scores because we've had a couple questions about how to know how AP credit has been received. And this applies to also CIE credit or any IB credit or things like that once you've sent it to JMU. So I just put that My Madison tutorial into the chat so you can kind of see a little bit further about what that looks like. So as we've gone through, we're going to go ahead and go to our next question. So this one would be for Chris. Chris, this is a really great question, and students are kind of wanting to know if they have credit for a class that they have received credit already for. So maybe they have duplicate credit, they took dual enrollment, but they also have AP credit for the same class. Can they move that credit to a different area?
So if you already have credit for a specific AP exam or for dual enrollment credit that's coming in JMU as something toward your major degree or even elective, you can't move that credit to another um, requirement, as it were. So if you have credit for writing WRTC 103, which is an introductory writing course, and you decide you want to take it again, as the credit comes in from AP or dual enrollment, we'll post it to your record. But once you retake the course again at JMU, and your grade is recorded at the end of the term, the previous credits for WRTC, whether they were dual enrollment or AP, will be removed from your account, and the graded completed course at JMU will be posted in its place.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that. Jamie, I've got a question for you. How am I supposed to know what DE course credits transfer for my major or gen eds if my transcripts haven't yet been processed when course enrollment opens up next week?
So great question. So what you'll do is go back into the Canvas, prepare for class enrollment, Canvas modules, and you'll look in transferology, you'll look at how those credits would transfer. And even if you don't know, maybe like that you're going to have credit for sure, what you could plan on is just waiting, go ahead and enroll in other classes, especially if it's not a major class that you actually need for your major. Maybe it's just a general education class. Plan on not enrolling in it. And then if you want to, you can always edit your schedule throughout the summer. So just know that it doesn't have to be set in stone the first day that you finish your schedule.
Perfect. Yep, that the first day enrollment opens is June 29th, but actually enrollment stays open until July 23rd. So there's plenty of time, like Jamie said. Um, So, Chris, I'm coming back to you for this next question. Since credits you receive for classes you took in high school affect what classes you should enroll in, what happens if those credit hours are not received initially? Can you talk a little bit about the process if the credits come in afterward and what processes exist for students to adjust their schedule?
Sure, if you're waiting for credit, happen to put together your schedule, and then you find out later that you have received credit for a certain course, you certainly do have time between June 29th and July 23rd to make adjustments to your schedule. And then also, too, enrollment will open back up on August 3rd at 8 a.m. and be open all the way through September 4th for any additional adjustments you can make. Certainly, if you have questions about whether you should enroll in a course or not, when you're expecting credit, you can certainly reach out to your advisor to discuss how that impacts your schedule and what other options you may have to enroll for in the fall semester.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm going to come to Andrea for this next question. I think it's just a broader question about like how to send in transcripts from other institutions. I know we mentioned Parchment as an electronic tool. There's another tool that's mentioned in the chat. Are there a couple common online tools that students can use to send their transcripts in electronically that you might want to mention, or?
It really depends on your school. A lot of high schools will use something called Naviance. That's perfectly acceptable. So if you're working with a high school counselor, someone in their registrar's office, that's perfectly acceptable to send that way. Your college or university will have their own method. So if you're not sure how to send something from another institution, my first recommendation is that you go out to that college's website and just search for how to order a transcript. A lot of Virginia community colleges use Parchment, so we're just very familiar with that one. But you may also see if you're working with a college or university out of state, they'll use the National Student Clearinghouse is another popular one. But really just my best recommendation is to reach out to that other school and ask them what service they would typically have you order through. And then go from there. But JMU accepts any of those official credential services. And if you're just not sure whether we accept them, feel free to reach out to us again, and we'll let you know if that's something that we look at. The only thing we do not accept, students or parents cannot email JMU a copy of the transcript. So if you go onto Parchment and accidentally send a copy of your transcript to yourself, you can't then forward it from yourself to JMU. It has to come directly from the school that you earn the credit through.
Thank you so much for that helpful information. Kate, I'm coming to you for this question. I saw I got credit for a couple dual enrollment classes, but they don't seem to satisfy any of the gen ed requirements. So would that count as separate general education requirements? Example the student gave was Sociology 101, but that's not a Madison Foundation requirement. Can you help a student understand what it means if their credit is not coming in as a class that they might see?
If your credits are outside of general education, you're still getting credit. So Sociology 101 is a 3-credit course that counts towards graduation. And I'm going back to the elective credit question. Elective credits are perfectly fine. That one just doesn't happen to be part of JMU's general education requirements, but you will have room for electives in your career at JMU.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Chris, I've got a question here for you. If the student took an AP exam that is not on the chart that we shared in the chat, does that mean that JMU does not accept credit for it? And the example was AP pre-calculus.
Well, AP pre-calculus was just updated to the chart, so it is accepted this year. As long as you have a 3, 4, or a 5, you will receive Math 155 credit, which is not a gen ed course, unfortunately, but it is a course that does count towards your degree, towards graduation, and it also will be a degree requirement for Bachelor of Science students. There are a few other additional updates. Most of them are involving foreign language, some art classes, things like that, and you can find that in our new college catalog for 26-27, the new AP chart. So there have been a few adjustments this summer.
Thank you, Chris. And just in general, if the AP exam is not on that chart that we shared, that means that we do not accept credit for it. But in general, as Chris just mentioned, the example, thankfully, was one that we did accept. Jolie, I'm coming to you for this question. What do credits do for you if it doesn't take a gen ed or a major class?
All right, sure thing. Credits that the transfer credit that you are receiving, for the most part, by and large, will help you toward your graduation requirements. So students need at least 120 credits to graduate from JMU, and in most cases, your classes for your major will take up a percentage of those credits, and your classes for general education will take up a percentage of those credits. But you also have an opportunity just to take electives and classes you're interested in. And so if you've taken a course that's not satisfying gen ed or satisfying a major requirement, it'll still work in most cases toward that 120 credits, and will still help you as you work towards your degree here.
Thank you, Jolie. It's very helpful. Jamie, coming to you for this next one. My advisor suggested possibly taking as many as 3 major courses in my first semester, but I've also heard from other individuals that could possibly do more general education courses versus major specific courses in my first semester. Is there a benefit to do more major specific courses versus gen ed courses the first semester?
Great question. So it really depends on your program, so the major that you are pursuing. So I would suggest follow that enrollment worksheet and listen to your advisor because they are best suited to be able to share that knowledge with you to make sure you stay on track to progress in your major. So it really depends on your program.
Perfect. And since you're already, and just as we have about 10 minutes or just under 10 minutes left, so students, if you have any final questions, please make sure that you go ahead and put them into the Q&A. But Jamie, since you were already talking, I'm going to keep with you for this moment. And what happens if my transcript isn't reviewed in time for course enrollment?
It's totally okay, so don't stress about it. As we mentioned, enrollment is not going to close, and you will be able to adjust your schedule. So it will close July 23rd at 11:59 p.m., and then it will reopen on August 3rd at 8 a.m. So let's say your transcript hasn't posted, you're really not sure if some of the credits are going to be ones that you really need to take in the fall. I would say wait, enroll in all the classes that you can fill your schedule. And then if you need to adjust, that's perfectly fine. You can do that once you see how those credits post to your record.
Perfect. So there's been a couple questions from students about where these worksheets are that we're talking about. So I just like to direct students to make sure that you're going to the Prepare for Class Enrollment modules. This was a one book step that was due on June 4th. In module 3 of the Prepare for Class Enrollment modules, there's a link for the worksheets per major. So we'd really encourage you to go through those modules if you haven't already. And there, like I said, there's a worksheet for every single major and degree type, and that will tell you a little bit about what you should enroll in. And then in module 4, it goes step by step in terms of how to approach enrolling in classes, and there's a bunch of different resources and tutorials. There's also information in module 4 about high credit students as well as honor student enrollment. And then module 2 has a bunch of transfer credit resources. Kate, I'm coming to you for this next question, if that's okay. How many classes should we plan to take each semester?
So 12 credits is full time. You need a minimum of 12 credits. If you are living on campus, you do need to be a full-time student as a first-year student. But if you do 12 credits each semester, that doesn't quite add up to 120 over 4 years. So your best bet is to look at 15 to 16 credits typically. But that being said, you can always start with 12 if you want to have a lighter load in your first semester. We have winter term classes, there are summer classes. We have some students who go back home and take classes to satisfy a requirement at their community college. So there are easy ways to catch up.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kate. Andrea, I'm coming to you for this next one. Could you reiterate what the credits are used for if they do not satisfy a general education or major requirement?
Absolutely. So if you have elective credits on your transfer credit report or on your record that aren't satisfying a general education requirement or a major or minor, those are going to go towards elective hours if your major has built-in electives that they require. They may go towards the 120 total credits that you need to earn a bachelor's degree at JMU. So those credits aren't going to sit idly and not be used. They do factor into that total that you need to graduate. Each of our individual degrees also have requirements. So a Bachelor of Science has a math and a science requirement. A Bachelor of Arts has foreign language and philosophy as their requirements. So there are a bunch of little requirements kind of nestled under the degrees as well that credit can potentially be used for. But I don't want you all to worry that elective credit is just sitting on your record and not being used for anything. Most of the time, that's going into your total pool of all the credits you've earned towards that 120.
Thank you so much. There's a question about whether or not academic advisors will be available during orientation. So students, you will meet with your advisors if you haven't already done so before enrollment during virtual group advising. So your advisor will not be available during orientation. There will, however, be representatives of first year advising administration available at the resource fair if you have general questions. And we also have our fantastic Madison advising peers And so they'll be available during the resource fair at orientation, and they're also available for appointments beginning on June 30th if you have any additional questions or just need help kind of finalizing your schedule. There's also a question about if you can change your schedule if your credits are posted after June 29th. So Jamie, maybe you could handle this one. If a student does need to change their schedule after June 29th, is that possible to do?
Yes. So it was mentioned that classes do start to fill up quickly, and while we all know that is true, um, students continue to make changes to their schedules. So just please be patient. Know that classes will open up, and also you may see that as students make adjustments throughout the summer, some spaces will open up that you didn't originally see. Also, come August 3rd, it wouldn't be ideal to wait till then, of course, but there will still be more classes open up when it reopens for all JMU students. So just know if you don't have that perfect schedule, you may not have a perfect schedule, so to speak. It is oftentimes that there could be something about your schedule that isn't perfect, but just know that you'll get the classes that you need and just be patient during the process.
Thank you so much, Jamie. So as we are finishing up answering our last questions, I just wanted to take the opportunity to let you know that we will have our first semester enrollment webinar. This is the big webinar that we have every year that prepares students and their family members about how enrollment works. We will go through step by step how to enroll in a class. We will go through all of the enrollment resources that exist at JMU, reference those worksheets that we've been talking about, et cetera, et cetera. So we really encourage you to attend. We will also be streaming this on Facebook Live. So encourage you to get that link and go through all these wonderful processes. And students, all in terms of recommendations for coursework and how to enroll in classes and things like this, these are all topics that your advisors are covering in virtual group advising as well. So if you haven't yet attended your virtual group advising session, we really would encourage you to do so. And as a reminder, all of these resources in terms of the classes that you would need to enroll in are located in the Prepare for Class Enrollment modules. So with that, it looks like we are finished with our questions for today. If you have any future questions, we'd really encourage you to talk to your first year advisor or email our first year advising email. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. But thank you so much for attending our webinar tonight. And we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your evening. And we hope to see you on Sunday evening. And go Dukes. Have a great night.